potentially, quote, a smoking gun that proves the Obama administration spied on the Trump team.
I think that it's going to be an accumulation of evidence.
I think we've got a constitutional crisis of James Comey's making.
Since other networks are determined to ignore it, more coverage of the horrific alleged rape in Rockville, Maryland.
This was a consensual encounter.
Pardon me if I seem astonished that you would be bold enough to assert something like that. That seems insane. Man, you better be right about this.
For 7.5 years, we have been promising the American people that we will repeal and replace this broken law.
You either vote on a plan to replace it or Obamacare stays.
The president is done negotiating.
This is the only train leaving the station that's going to be repealing Obamacare.
At the White House this morning. It's still dark there on the East Coast in Washington, D.C. The president in the White House saying, I am done. I am done negotiating on Obamacare. You better pass it, take it, or leave it.
I have a feeling a lot of lights stayed on all night in the White House.
Probably
no
so.
Sleep, no sleep. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling better. I'm feeling okay. I'm on some antibiotics.
Yeah, just fighting through Friday.
Yeah.
Welcome, guys. Yes.
We have Brian, Steve off. Good to see you guys this morning.
Good to see you, too.
We've got a lot to get to this morning
There's
because,
so much
as you just mentioned, you saw the president there in that trunk honking that horn.
How funny is that?
This is the strategy now for the White House is those votes are not adding up, and they could not get to a vote yesterday. And the president now saying, look, this is it. Take it or leave it. I'm going to move on to tax reform. If you guys don't want to pass health care, it's going to remain Obamacare.
That's exactly right. That's the message across the board from the president to the White House press secretary saying, we've got a deal. We fought for this. There needs to be a vote, and it needs to happen now. This is what White House press secretary Sean Spicer said last night on the O'Reilly Factor.
I think for anyone to defend Obamacare, it's collapsing on its own. The American people know it. They're paying too much. They're getting too few choices. This is finally going to be the repeal and replace that they've waited for a long time. At the end of the day, this is the only train leaving the station that's going to be repealing Obamacare and giving us an alternative to replace it. This is the train that's leaving the station. This is the choice that we've been waiting for. This is the pledge that people have made to the American people.
Some people are criticizing Paul Ryan, saying he didn't release the information. He didn't release what the bill said until a few weeks ago. Rand Paul was up in arms about that. And now the Freedom Caucus, they're not on board with this at all. And many are calling on Republicans to unite and to get together so that this can pass and we can move on.
Well, because it's about more than just Obamacare. This is about the Trump presidency and the other items on the agenda. You don't want to start with a misstep here. But you're exactly right. The president was misserved by Speaker Ryan and other Hill Republicans that presented a plan they thought had more support than it really did. And now you're having this back and forth tug where the Freedom Caucus wants some, but then you lose moderates, folks like Charlie Dent, who are saying, well, I'm off the bill because it's too conservative. In a really tough spot. So you're hoping the crucible and the time pressure can get to a place where, hey, you're either with the president on this to get this done. This is your one shot. We've said we want to get rid of Obamacare. This is your shot. Pony up and do it, even if it's not perfect.
You started to see this strategy emerging yesterday because in the morning you saw the president saying later this afternoon on the 7th anniversary of the signing of Obamacare, you're going to see the House sign this bill to repeal and replace. And as the afternoon started to unfold, you saw that that wasn't the case. And you see the shifting strategy from the White House. Look, you better get on board. It's my way or the highway. We're going to move on to tax reform. Nancy Pelosi, though, came out yesterday with a bit of a zinger. You could see, like, the fire in her eyes, and she said, this is a rookie mistake. How do you put this to a vote? You don't have the votes. She said, Mr. President, you are a rookie. That's got to irk him this morning. Nancy Pelosi calling him out.
Well, I mean, she also said that this is going to be tattooed to Republicans if it passes. Well, if it doesn't pass, then guess what? Obamacare is tattooed to Americans going forward.
Yeah,
and you
Democrats are not going to get on board with this at all. They're just sitting back right now, circular firing squad, watching Republicans shooting themselves.
Also, the other big news yesterday, Congressman Devin Nunes comes out. Remember, he came out and he said that President Trump said on Twitter that he thought that his administration was being spied on, was being wiretapped.
By the Obama administration.
Exactly. So Devin Nunes comes out and he says, you know what, that might have happened. Then yesterday he is saying, we have evidence. I have seen proof. There is proof that this actually did happen. Yes. At least spying on the Trump team. team.
That's right. Someone approached, it appears that whistleblowers or others approached him with evidence that surveillance had occurred at Trump Tower. Incidental or otherwise, there was some level of surveillance of the transition team at Trump Tower, and which some have dubbed a smoking gun. Some believe the intel shows there's very little doubt that did not happen. The NSA now today is going to deliver evidence to the House Intelligence Committee that some believe will prove and show what Devin Nunes has been saying, which would undercut a lot of the claims that there's no evidence. It appears there likely is evidence of surveillance.
Yeah, James Rosen doing some great reporting on this, saying incidental communication. So what does that mean? Was it specifically going after the Trump transition team, or, as James Rosen was pointing out, incidental communication meaning that they were looking at these Russian foreign agents and then individuals were talking to those Russian foreign agents and caught up in that web?
Some are saying it wasn't even the Russians, though, which is why you need the surveillance wasn't even focused on the Russians, which is why we need this evidence to come out. This is what Representative Devin Nunes
He said he had to defend himself last night on Hannity because mainstream media was having a heyday with this yesterday.
Yep, that's right. Take a listen.
I will say that the dissemination was pretty far and wide, and like I've said before, I think it appears to me that it was all legal. The question is should it have been done in the first place? Did it meet foreign intelligence value? And then secondly, were any other American names unmasked? And I have information that says that there were.
There's the other side of the story, too, is that he's being blasted, of course, this morning by Democrats because he went right to the White House and didn't come out and brief other members of the intelligence community, saying, look, this is a bipartisan thing. It doesn't matter who's president, what party's in office. You go to the other members of the intelligence committee and talk to them, show them what you have.
But if you've also been approached by a whistleblower in confidence, you've got to be careful about the what you have and how it gets circulated. The unmasking of names is a very serious thing. It means we've given up the names of people that are being talked to, and it's being disseminated and pushed out. That's how you get the leaks that have created so much consternation.
And there are only a few people that are allowed to do that can unmask, and that's what Trey Gowdy, remember when he was grilling James Comey, he was saying, who could do this? Could Susan Rice do it? Could Brennan do it? Could Sally Yates do it? Could Ben Rhodes do it? All those were yes, yes, yes. And the other one was Loretta Lynch. So that's why this is such a big deal, because it dates back between November and January, and that's when President Obama was in office.
Right, and it's scary. I mean, all Americans think about what is their government doing, watching them, and you never know in these communications, members of Congress, on the phone, it doesn't really matter. Is all of it now being surveilled? This is what Jay Sekulow had to say last night on Hannity. He thinks we're in the middle of a constitutional crisis here. Listen.
You know what I think we've got here, Sean? I think we've got a constitutional crisis of James Comey's making. So this is a constitutional crisis from Comey. And Comey was an administration official also under President Obama. And this idea that President Obama did not order it does not answer the question of was the Obama administration responsible for this, because the fact is, and this is clear, they were the administration in power.
It doesn't
so
answer.
This surveillance, which we now know is going on, they're responsible. Period. You want to get to the answer on this question? Subpoena a couple people, including the former president of the United States.
Well, and in this process, it's become clear that the FBI is not very responsive to the House Intel Committee, so the FBI is not handing over information, but the NSA is, which, as I said, they're producing the documents today. It could be incidental surveillance. It could be the Russians. It may not be. But what everyone has wanted this entire time is evidence, is proof. And it appears it was presented to Devin Nunes. Now we'll see what the NSA comes out with on Friday, and I think it'll add a lot of content.
Will we see that information today? The NSA is handing over to the House Intelligence Committee?
Yeah.
It depends on the volume. They'll have to go through it, and then obviously classification matters.
Yeah, as James Rosen reporting, we have to dig through these documents, which could take a long time till we see what's in there.
Right. Okay, well, those are two big stories. Another big story that we reported, my gosh, it's the story of that 14-year-old little girl that was allegedly raped in the bathroom at her high school by two illegal immigrants. No other network was covering this. The mainstream media was not covering it. ABC, NBC, CBS, still zero coverage. That is a news story, and I feel like they have the responsibility to do that for this little girl.
Until last night, when Tucker Show took on the defense attorney
one of the
defense attorneys who agreed to take on this case. You want to defend this? Tucker took him on. Listen.
So be honest, would you be comfortable having your 14-year-old girl in class with this guy?
I want nothing but safety for my children, their friends, my family, and everyone in my community.
Right. Well, okay, we all do, but that's not answering the question. This specific guy, your client, would you feel comfortable having a loved one go to school with him?
I don't know him. I literally don't know him.
But, I mean, I think that's something you would think through, since you're going to be arguing in public on behalf of this guy. And so doesn't his character, his capacity or not to do something like this? Does that enter into it? Do you think, is this guy guilty or not? Is that a consideration for you?
Everything's a consideration. I'm sure there could be a number of questions asked about all three of the people involved in this.
What would the questions be raised about the 14-year-old girl who says that she was raped in the high school bathroom and apparently whose screams were heard by her classmates? What questions would you raise about her?
I don't know. I wonder what questions were raised about the accuser in the Duke lacrosse case, or what was raised on the Rolling Stone Virginia case.
This isn't the Duke lacrosse. I'm asking you a straightforward question. You're the one who brought it up. You said questions could be raised about her ominously, and I'm asking what question? Man, you better be right about this, because if you're going to be impugning the character of a 14-year-old girl who says she was raped, other people say they heard her screams. I mean, to impugn her character, I mean, you really, before God, better be sure that you're on the right side of this. Do you think, man, I'm kind of putting my soul on the line here a little bit before doing something like that? Do you have those thoughts to yourself?
I'm a human being, and I have all of those thoughts.
You have said, look, his immigration status is irrelevant. But can you see why people don't think it is irrelevant? Because he was in and out of U.S. custody a bunch of times, federal custody, and then state custody in Maryland, and he was let go. And now he's accused of a violent rape against a child. So if he had been deported, as he should have been legally, you'll concede, we wouldn't be here today. So why is his immigration status irrelevant? It sounds like it's very relevant to me.
His immigration status is irrelevant to whether or not he did it. And my job is to defend him and to try and get to the bottom of the facts of whether or not he did.
What a difficult position. I mean, I don't know, I feel for this defense attorney. Also.
You do?
Yeah, well, I do. I mean, that's America. That's the law. And you think about John Adams, one of our presidents before he was president, having to defend those guys at the Boston Massacre, the British who killed Americans. I mean, think about that. That's the responsibility of a defense attorney.
What he's saying is wrong. He's saying that the immigration status is irrelevant. If he weren't in this country, it would not have happened. So
what I'm saying is that his job is that as a defense attorney, he's put in that position. He has to defend him, and we'll see what.
And that's what he did. That's what he said. He continually retreated behind, "This is my job as a defense attorney." But
after he discredited the little girl.
That's exactly right. When something like this happens, as the Maryland legislature is talking about making that state a sanctuary state, of course the immigration status matters.
Right.
It shouldn't have been here in the first place. Wouldn't have happened if he wasn't. Of course, that defense attorney is never going to concede that point in the moment. But as Tucker has a way of doing, he got to the bottom of it.
And would you want your little girl to be in there? Absolutely not. I mean, and you could see him just...
Yeah, pained.
Right. I'm sure he's not sleeping well.
No. All right, well, coming up, could Casey Anthony and O.J. Simpson be the newest reality TV stars?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, and is it really true that if Republicans can't get their health care plan passed today, it could put tax reforms in jeopardy? Stuart Varney is here with the real truth on that. Stuart, come on in.
Thank you.
Hey.
Right, Trump was up all night calling Republicans. He said he would have called some Democrats, but figured they were already on the line spying on him. So they already know what's going on.
We're going to bring Stuart Varney now, the host of Varney and Company on Fox Business. Good to see you, Stuart.
Oh, yeah, it's a big day.
Big day. So if healthcare, if Obamacare is not repealed, if that vote goes down, the Trump administration is saying we're moving on to tax reform.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people say maybe this is where they should have gone first. What do you think?
Look, the movement towards cutting taxes is not going to be interrupted, regardless of today's vote. If it's a yes vote, fine, okay, then we'll get to tax reform on course. If it's a no vote, then Mr. Trump says we'll keep Obamacare, we're still going towards tax reform. The bottom line here is that investors and the economy need tax cuts, and that is still on track, whatever happens in today's vote. That is my opinion.
So President Trump is saying, hard stop, I'm done with Obamacare. If it doesn't pass, I'm moving on. Conventional wisdom in Washington would say, okay, but you've got some diminished political capital. Can you really get it done? You don't feel like it hurts his efforts to get to tax reform?
He has lost a little juice. If there's a no vote today, and I don't think there will be, but if there is a no vote, yes, he's lost a little juice because he has failed in his first attempt at negotiating a compromise to bring Republicans together. But nonetheless, the guts of his program is cutting taxes and growing the economy. He's basically offering a dare to the conservatives within the Republican Party. He's saying, do you really want to go back to your district next year and say that you're the person who stopped tax reform, who stopped the growth agenda? You want to do that?
They tried the same thing with Obamacare. It doesn't seem to be working.
Well, okay. When push comes to shove,
is so fundamental to what
it is. It's the fundamental element of the Trump proposal and the Trump agenda. You've got to cut taxes. You've got to deregulate. That's the way you get growth. And that's what Trump's policies were all about.
He's got to feel a little defeated because when he tried the six-country thing didn't work out for him. Obamacare, we don't know if this is going to pass. So if he had started with the tax reform, maybe you have a good point there. Because tax reform, if it passes the way he ran on it, it lowers the, decreases the brackets. There'll be 3 different brackets, right? And it's good news for anyone who pays taxes because everyone's taxes go down.
It's good news for the economy. What you need is a jolt of a lot more money flowing into the economy from the private sector, from private hands into the private sector to get growth going.
And these businesses are waiting on this, right? We've already started seeing them spending money, hiring on the hope, of these tax cuts. If they don't get them...
Look, it's not been widely reported. You don't see it on the front page of the New York Times. But we've had a whopping great big stock market rally because investors expect growth in the future.
And if you're a Republican, you'd better be for tax cuts, which means if they're not for his next deal, then what are they for?
Could you imagine if there's, if they're not united on that?
I just can't see a Republican congressman going back to his or her district for re-election next year and saying, well, I stood on principle.
Right. I
wanted
to keep your taxes high.
100% of what I wanted in Obamacare, and I wasn't prepared to settle for 80%.
You've met some of those congressmen.
It's not going to happen.
Stuart Varney, always great to have you here. Varney and Company on the Fox Business Network. Great
thanks so much, everyone.
Watching your show this morning after hours.
Thank you.
Switch the channel.
Thank you. All right, coming up, it's the horrific case the mainstream media continues to ignore. The attack of a teenage girl. The suspect is an illegal immigrant. So why are so many lawmakers protecting illegals at all costs?
The immigration status of a defendant has nothing to do with, the crime that was committed.
Our own Griff Jenkins goes after those lawmakers next.
We have some quick headlines for you. New overnight, a desperate search for 2 little boys abducted when the car that they were in was stolen. Police in Cathedral City, California say this 2-year-old, Carlos, and the 1-year-old Jaden were strapped in their car seats outside of a house when their babysitter stepped out of the car for a moment. And that is when someone jumped in and took off with the kids in the back. And the Keystone Pipeline could get the green light today. The State Department expected to approve a key permit for the project. The multi-billion-dollar pipeline would bring more than 800,000 barrels of oil from Canada to the U.S. refineries every single day.
That would be good news. Well, we've got a Fox News alert all week long. We've been telling you about the town rocked by a brutal sexual assault case involving illegal immigrants. But even amid all the controversy, some lawmakers are still pushing legislation to make Maryland a sanctuary state.
That the Attorney General develop safe haven policies for undocumented immigrants in hospitals, public schools, and courthouses.
This bill is good for Maryland and makes Maryland safer. Why?
100%. There was a rape, and the immigration status of a defendant has nothing to do with, the crime that was committed.
Really? If the person shouldn't have been here in the first place? Griff Jenkins has been getting reaction from the other side on all this. Good morning, Griff.
Clayton, Pete, Ainsley, let me tell you, it's just incredible that just over a week ago, a 14-year-old girl allegedly raped in a bathroom at a high school by a 17 and 18-year-old, both of whom are illegally here in the country, should not be here, one of them with a detainer to be deported, and yet Maryland is trying to make the state a sanctuary state. Now let's talk about what that is. That means they are trying to bar local and state law enforcement from helping federal immigration officials enforce our laws. So as you saw from that one Democratic lawmaker where I talked to a few days ago, I went back yesterday afternoon to talk to some of the Republicans to find out what's going on. Here is what State Senator Michael Huff had to say. Take a listen to this.
What this policy would say is that when our law enforcement arrests somebody, their hands would be completely tied as far as working with ICE and federal authorities. Even if these people are dangerous, terrorists, gang members, no matter what they are, this bill has no exceptions. It says that they cannot work, local law enforcement cannot work with ICE.
Is there no exceptions, Griff?
I can only imagine, as our viewers are watching, that they're trying to process this. Up there in Annapolis, what was a local heinous, allegedly heinous crime is now turned all of the country looking at what they're doing there, and they realize, as you point out, every word counts in this thing. And actually, for that lawmaker, Michael Huff, he is from Montgomery County, which is where this high school took place. He's got ties there. He grew up there. Listen to this. This is how personal it is just for him. Take a listen.
Montgomery County has made themselves a sanctuary county already. In fact, I grew up in Montgomery County. It's very sad to see what's happening there. MS-13's on the rise. In fact, the elementary school where I went to as a kid, MS-13 just murdered somebody right behind that school. So Montgomery County and their policies show what happens, that when you coddle illegal alien criminals, you get what happens there. And that's why we don't want that policy through the rest of the state.
How about that?
It's baffling. They get a pass. They get a pass. You can come here, be illegal, you can live here, and if you do anything wrong, you get away with it.
Well, and you get to double up, too. So you get the county, which already has this sanctuary status, now the city as well.
Well, that's a good point. You know, so the county, Montgomery County, is the most progressive, most liberal of all of Maryland. It is the largest county in Maryland, and they don't actually qualify technically as a sanctuary county, but they've been operating under a sort of informal version of a sanctuary state because that's what they want to do. And now, you know, people are taking notice at this sort of thing, and you have this situation which is, you know, pretty much a political move. Take a listen to Huff again.
What this is there are about a dozen bills this year that are completely aimed at Donald Trump that are nothing more than political statements, temper tantrums at Trump. The problem with this bill is it's going to create real public safety problems for Marylanders, and I think real bad things are going to happen. And we saw the beginning of it with Sanctuary County, Montgomery County, what happened there, which was awful. And now they want to spread that throughout the rest of the state.
Boy, the front lines of exactly what our president is talking about, lawlessness where those who shouldn't be rewarded are.
Well, that's right, and here you have it. It's all playing out in Maryland. It'll go to the Senate now next week, and the governor, Larry Hogan, says that he will veto this. We'll be watching it for you guys.
All right, Griff Jenkins live for us in D.C. this morning. Thanks, Griff.
Thanks, Griff. All right, coming up, we told you about this story. Veterans Affairs refusing to hang a picture of the president, of President Trump, and this morning a brand new update to that story.
Oh, boy. And it could be the most controversial reality show of all time. The reason? Casey Anthony and O.J. Simpson. We're going to explain next.
All right.
Welcome back.
We are going to hand it over to Abby, who has some headlines for us.
Good morning,
Good morning.
guys. Yeah, a lot of other headlines we're following closely this morning, starting with a Fox News alert, and it's now or never for Republicans to repeal and replace Obamacare. President Trump giving lawmakers that ultimatum after countless hours of negotiations. That highly anticipated vote expected later today, but it's unclear if enough Republicans are on board. Just 22 have to say no for that bill to fail. We'll keep a close eye on that one. And dozens of accused drug cartel members breaking out of a Mexican prison. The inmates digging a tunnel that stretched 120 feet long. Take a look at that. Just 10 of the 29 have been recaptured so far. That prison sits just 200 miles away from the Texas border. 30 guards at the facility. They are now under investigation. And listen to this one. Casey Anthony and O.J. Simpson rumored to be starring in what could be the most controversial reality show of all time. Anthony, who was acquitted of murdering her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee, is reportedly in talks to co-star with Simpson, the show focusing on their lives. After their acquittal, Simpson is currently serving a 33-year-old sentence, but could be up for his parole this year. Unreal. And Tom Brady's stolen Super Bowl jersey is now back where they belong. The FBI's Boston division returning the 2017 and 2015 memorabilia to Gillette Stadium. The 2017 jersey was taken from the locker room after the team's Super Bowl victory last month. Well, surveillance video leading the feds to Mexico, where they found them in a media executive's home. He has not been charged so far. Tom Brady and the Patriots set to visit the White House on April 19th. I still can't get over this O.J. Simpson, Casey Anthony.
I can't either.
What next? They're going to date? I mean,
oh my goodness, you're probably right.
You know, America will watch. I'm sure it'll be a train wreck, and America will probably watch.
Oh my goodness. And then the jersey thing, that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to Tom Brady. I'm sure the price of it skyrocketed because of all this.
Like reality
that's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying it's worth $500,000.
It's worth more than that now.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, who was the sad sack that actually went into the locker room and thought that he wouldn't get away with it?
Well, they said he's done it a number of different times.
He
snuck in,
didn't he
grabbed
have
the jersey.
He had another jersey of Tom Brady's, and then he had a helmet, didn't he?
do you think
it's like,
you're
come
gonna
over to my
sell
house
that?
for a dinner party, but shh, I want to show you some stuff. You got to keep this quiet. Come into my secret lair.
Somehow I'm going to get a lot of money for it. It's not quite
That's like people who steal paintings, like Picasso's and that kind of thing. How do you get away with that? Because it's everyone's looking for it.
You're not familiar with the black market, are you?
Right.
I'll have to teach you about the black market.
I've stolen a couple of Van Goghs in my time. No one's looking for
Okay, but the black
Clayton knows
market,
where to
why?
dump 'em.
Here's the
Come
question,
on.
though. Why would you buy it if you know eventually, if you're caught, they're going to take it from you?
I don't know. I mean, I think...
Does that make sense? Why would you spend millions of
Greed
dollars
gets
on a
its-
painting or on something in the black market if you know the investigators
Let's
find it in
get
your
this
house?
guy on the show.
Because
Let's
you want
ask
to...
him this
Because
question.
you
And he
get it at
wasn't
a
arrested.
discount.
The guy wasn't arrested down in Mexico yet,
Not
right?
yet.
Because on the black market, maybe you get it at a discount, and then you can hang it up in your house.
Maybe that's okay.
You know?
Maybe that makes sense.
I'm just thinking. maybe
You
that's
know too much
possibly
about
what I don't know that much about it. But
Let us know your thoughts on all of this. Friends at FoxNews.com. You can weigh in on that.
All right, I think we're going to bring Rob Schmidt over to the couch and talk to you, Rob. The portrait of President Trump is now hanging in a second Florida VA hospital.
They finally got it up. That's right. Veterans continuing to expose staff for ignoring a White House directive.
And Rob Schmidt joins us now live with the details on this painting or picture. Good morning.
Yeah.
This
So,
was
hey,
a huge
guys.
story. Everyone was writing in about this.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that kind of politicizes everybody. A Vietnam veteran at a VA facility in Port St. Lucie outraged when he saw President Trump's portrait was missing. It's just the latest bureaucratic battle to display the portraits of President Trump and VA Secretary David Shulkin at a VA hospital in Florida. The National VA had ordered all facilities to download the president's picture and put it on the wall immediately as they wait for official portraits to be sent. Now, this comes days after a Republican congressman and double amputee war vet noticed the portraits were missing from another facility in West Palm Beach. A Marine Corps veteran telling Fox and Friends last week the VA told him that there was no photo.
I, went up to the guy and asked him. I said, well, what's going on? I said, where's the picture of the president? And, the guy just told me, he said, that they're planning on impeaching him, so they didn't want to spend any money on the photo.
Congressman Mast hanging the portrait back up at the West Palm Beach VA facility. So there you have it, but just one of those things where politics gets involved in things like pictures hanging up in government offices.
Well, they have to take matter into their own hands. The VA bureaucracy doesn't like President Trump and a lot of the reforms he wants. A lot of them are union employees, so their little snub is we're not going to put your picture up, even though we know how easy it is to put a picture up.
But he's still the president. I mean, you have to have his picture up. I mean, we see pictures of Obama everywhere when you go into government offices.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't like the framing. Maybe they wanted a matte back and they wanted to take it down
Or
to
the
Michael's.
seriousness of the president's face. Maybe they wanted him to smile. You know a thing or two about this, but aren't they going to be looking to the president when they need him, when they need more money? And he says he's giving more and more money.
He is giving more money to them, but
soldiers.
he also is bringing some badly needed reforms that place, a lot of those folks don't want, like the ability for them to actually be fired for poor performance. So I think they do look at that and say, we're going to keep your photo off the wall as long as we can as sort of a point of pride. But you know who is not going to let that stand? Vets, guys like Brian Mast, a congressman down in Florida, who say, not so fast, hang up the picture, and that's exactly what happened.
Right.
So, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks.
A sermon on the Ten Commandments leading our next guest on a spiritual journey. Lauren Green is here to share her experience.
And Facebook rolling out a new alert about fake news. But who gets to decide what news is fake and what's based on facts? Kurt the Cyber Guy is going to break it down for us next.
Hey, Kurt.
Good morning.
Hey.
And welcome back. Time for some quick headlines. Democrats threatening to filibuster Judge Neil Gorsuch's Supreme Court nomination.
He will have to earn 60 votes for confirmation. The answer isn't to change the rules. It's to change the nominee.
Republicans vowing to use the nuclear option if Democrats follow through. And road trip, the new DNC chair, Tom Perez, and Deputy Chair Keith Ellison are hitting the road today on a 4-state turnaround tour, hoping to rebuild the party. First stop, Michigan, where Hillary Clinton became the first Democrat since 1988 to lose that state. Then Texas, Virginia, and New Jersey. Well, Facebook taking a step in the fight to stop fake news, using third-party fact-checkers to alert users.
But concerns are being raised now over the possibility of censorship. Should these third parties really be able to decide what is fake and what is fact?
Here to break it down for us, Kurt Knutson, the Cyber Guy. Kurt, so what are we looking at here?
Pete, good morning to you. Good morning, guys. We're talking about, we told you here in December, it was Mark Zuckerberg finally coming out at Facebook saying, all right, we may not call ourselves a media company, but we at least now recognize that we have great influence influence, and there is a big problem online in terms of misinformation that gets shared, whether it was related to the election or whether it's just what we were just bantering about. Even, sometimes our parents are guilty of sending around messages or repeating things that you hear online or see on a website that just simply we know is not true.
Right, sharing some news story and you're like, come on, Mom, that's definitely not a real story.
Right.
But now Facebook is adding that little button that says basically this is not verified, this is fake news.
Start looking at your news feed on Facebook very differently. It's not rolled out everywhere yet, but it is starting to roll out. This is a new tool at Facebook where they're going to flag essentially what is in dispute as a truth or a fact.
Well, who's actually doing this? Is Mark Zuckerberg in the corner going over this, or has he hired someone to do it?
He's actually very smart on this one. Rather than Facebook say that, hey, okay, we'll be the ones judging all of this, they've sought out a third party, like the Poynter Institute and other parties that get into this. Well, they're part of the program, so it's
but how
going
do
to
we
be
know we
managed by
can trust
somebody else.
them?
Right.
How do we know they're not
And
super
why,
liberal or super
what gives
conservative?
them the, because a lot of, say, conservative publications will say, well, they're too far left-leaning, so why are they flagging everything? So we'll see what happens. But look what's about to happen. So this is what you're going to see if you try to share something fake. So this is an interesting little thing that'll pop up that says disputed by multiple independent fact checkers, and it goes on with that. Now, if you still try to share it, it'll pop up another window, which then warns you about sharing that, saying, hey, we just told you that that was a disputed fact, and it'll now say who it is that's behind it that's disputing it.
But I'm sorry. So so many people that work and found Facebook are left-wingers. Then you've got these media sites which have been proven through this election cycle to be biased against conservatives. Why should conservatives look at this and feel like it isn't something that's going to stifle content they like or slant against?
We're going to have to see what really happens when this rolls out. That last screen you just saw happened to be a story that some people think should have been published. Other people think it's not. But see the little red warning sign? It comes out as this red flag, warning, warning, warning.
Disputed by liberals, disputed by liberals.
You're still going to send that out. So, I mean, right now, people are saying this could be that mechanism that controls the rudder or barometer of the type of news that you see on Facebook, but we've yet to really see what it is.
I wish this would have been around about a year ago, because I shared a story one time, because I thought Breaking Bad was coming back to television. I read a fake news story and said Breaking Bad, and I hit share.
We are all suckers for it,
and all
right?
my friends were like, come on, Clint. And I reread through the whole story. It was a total fake story. And,
but that's on you, right? So you got shamed on it, and then you've adjusted fire.
We forgive you. We forgive you.
You're giving him a great idea, though.
But we'll keep our eye. We're going to keep our eye on
bring it
this
back.
for you. We'll keep our eye on this for you. So let's see what
Facebook has so much power. If they're going to
enormous.
So does Clayton. If they bring it back, we know it's Clayton that did it.
Clayton did it. We always blame Clayton.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you,
Kurt.
Blame me. Take a number. All right, brand new evidence surfacing today that could be the smoking gun tying the Obama administration to the